You're all very welcome to the Return to America Travel Trade webinar brought to you by Visit USA and ITTN. As we prepare for the return of transatlantic travel, this is the ideal opportunity to get up to speed on what to expect from a return to our favorite destinations across the United States in a post-COVID world. I'm Fionn Davenport, Group Editor for ITTN, and in this webinar, we're going to focus on the Northeast and Midwest of the United States, which covers a pretty sizable chunk of the country from New York, New England, Washington, D.C., right out to Michigan on the Great Lakes. And our panel of experts is made up of the following: Stacey Sheets, who's Marketing Director for Capital Regions USA, Chris Jennings, who's the Executive Director for Discover New England, Jennifer Geiger, who is the PR and Communications Manager for Visit Maine, and Kelly Walgamot, who is the Director of Travel Marketing for Pure Michigan. Stacey, we'll start with you if we can. The Capital Region is, if memory serves, three distinct areas centered on the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. But what can you tell us about Maryland, Virginia, and the broader D.C. metropolitan area?
The Capital Region is a great region to promote because while it's compact, it's also very diverse. You can easily visit D.C., Maryland, and Virginia in one day along a river tour, or you could spend weeks traveling across the region, exploring the many cities and small towns, scenic byways, Appalachian Mountains, Chesapeake Bay, and Atlantic coastline. We're centered in the Mid-Atlantic, so it's also a great tour to include of the East Coast, or a great area to include on a tour of the East Coast. The region is a 5-hour drive, a few hours train ride, or a quick flight from New York, and just a couple hours flight from Florida. Washington Dulles International Airport is the official international airport for the region. It offers nonstop flights from around the globe, including Dublin with United and Aer Lingus, which we hope will return soon. The airport is located in Northern Virginia and is convenient to destinations throughout the region. In early 2022, the extension of DC's Metro train service to Dulles is expected to be completed, and we're very excited for this because this will allow visitors to fly directly into Dulles and easily hop onto a Metro and get it to downtown DC or any of the 91 Metro stations across the region. We love promoting the capital city because not only, it is the seat of the nation's government, so while it does have all those history-making attractions such as the White House and the Supreme Court, it's also home to the National Mall, more than 20 distinct neighborhoods filled with Michelin-starred restaurants, cultural events, vibrant music scene, parks and gardens. And then in Maryland, you'll find that the Western Maryland is a mountainous region filled with lakes, parks, vibrant towns and cities like Frederick, historic sites like Antietam National Battlefield. But it's really known for its water culture and its heritage. The state capital, Annapolis, is the sailing capital of the U.S. The city of Baltimore is Maryland's largest, and its Inner Harbor neighborhood is one of the most popular destinations in the city. The eastern shore along the Chesapeake Bay is dotted with quaint fishing villages, charming waterfront towns, and there's numerous scenic byways to explore around there, especially like the Chesapeake Country Scenic Byway and the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad Byway. And just across from the Potomac River in D.C., you can visit the cities of Alexandria and Arlington in Virginia. The capital city of Richmond is just a couple short hours drive from D.C. America's Historic Triangle is a popular historic attraction in Virginia, which features Colonial Williamsburg, Yorktown, and Jamestown, the site of the first permanent colony in America. Virginia Beach is the state's top beach destination, is home to the world's longest stretch of Pleasure Beach. And then in the western part of the state, you have the Blue Ridge Mountains and Shenandoah Valley. It's a scenic rural area filled with tons of outdoor recreation, rich culture and heritage, charming towns. And finally, Southwest Virginia is home to Virginia's Heritage Music Trail, the Crooked Road. And this is a trail that travels about 300 miles throughout Southwest Virginia, exploring the historic musical sites such as the Carter Family Hall, the birthplace of country music, and the Ross Stanley Museum.
So 2 states, 1 capital city, and plenty to do. Chris Jennings, I lived in New York City for, well, the guts of 12 years. And yet, I have to admit, I would be hard-pressed to correctly name all of the states that make up New England. So please help us out.
All right, I'll do it from your old stomping grounds from New York. And this is, thank you and appreciate the opportunity. So if you went east, you would go to Connecticut first, and Connecticut right next to you. And again, that would be I think about 100 miles, and you could get into Rhode Island would be next. And I'm going to stop a little bit along the way, but in Connecticut, places like Mystic and Hartford, these are some of the highlights that you're used to. In Rhode Island, Newport, obviously, Providence, again, a couple of really great opportunities for you to get a little bit of a taste of New England. And then you go into Massachusetts, and that is home of our International Gateway, which would be obviously Boston Logan Airport, our biggest city as well. If you kept going north, Jennifer's home state, great state of Maine, also where I went to college, a little college up in Maine, but again, one of our, I think it's actually our biggest state in terms of the actual size of it. Lobster. I'm sure you've had lobster. That's probably the state that's got the best example of that. Go west a little from Maine, and you're going to jump into my home state of New Hampshire, native of New Hampshire, the Granite State, live free or die. Also, again, mountains, seashore. And then further west, just the next border over, and we sort of say we're opposite triangles, New Hampshire one way, and Vermont is the Green Mountain State. So that is right there. And then you could obviously go right back down into New York City and get back home that way. So yesterday I took a trip to Connecticut, but I hit 4 different states doing it. So a day's drive, it was really easy, and it's a great way for us to help package our destination.
Jennifer Geiger, Chris mentioned Maine, your state. Now, what I do know of Maine, it has some extraordinary wilderness. So if you were looking for something more outdoorsy, nature spotting opportunities, I imagine there's plenty for the visitor to see and do.
Yes, absolutely. And you can cross into Maine in less than 2 hours from Boston and be in a place where you can access the coastline. There's 3,500 miles. I don't know what that is in kilometers of coastline. And we have 6,000 lakes and ponds. Our inland border with New Hampshire is lakes and mountains. And our state is 89% forested. So many opportunities to get off and out into the woods, into trails, and etc. A great way to experience the natural environment in Maine is to explore one of Maine's 32 state parks. They're safe, they're accessible, trails are well marked, and there's a great variety all along the coast. You can go to a sand beach at Popham Beach State Park or Reed State Park in the mid-coast. Inland, Grafton Notch State Park in the mountains has wonderful hiking trails with waterfalls to explore. And then in central Maine, Baxter State Park, which is designated Forever Wild, has Katahdin, which is the end of the Appalachian Trail, if you're familiar with that hiking trail. And that area has been designated a dark sky sanctuary. So it's a place where if you stay overnight, you can look up and see the wonderful landscape of the stars in the sky. And there are great opportunities to see wildlife in Maine. 2 that are sort of unique to our state are puffin tours. The Atlantic puffin was hunted almost to extinction at one point, but a colony has been reintroduced at Eastern Egg Rock. And there is a puffin colony there of several hundred that is growing every year, and boat tours will take you out to the 7-acre rock to see them nesting, clinging to the cliff face. And then also Maine has the approximately 75,000 moose, I think is the estimate, which is, it's actually the largest concentration in the US outside of Alaska. And there are a number of companies who will take you on what they will call a moose tour or a moose safari, but you hunt with your camera to shoot. They're very shy. So even though there's a good number, not so easy to see in the wild, but if you're with a guide, they know where they're feeding and can take you there.
Kelly Walgamot, my second last trip before the pandemic struck was to Michigan. So I spent a bit of time trailing around Michigan, and Jennifer's talking about wilderness. There's certainly no doubt that there's plenty of wilderness to explore in Michigan, but we're talking a state that has like a range of diverse experiences from urban to the most kind of outdoorsy you can get.
Absolutely. And we're ready to welcome back visitors to catch up with family and friends and make those special travel memories in Michigan. Michigan is made up of 2 peninsulas, which we're surrounded by 4 of the 5 Great Lakes, and they are great lakes. We are all about abundant natural beauty, unique experiences, and authentic places to visit. Those Great Lakes provide us with the longest freshwater coastline that is dotted with charming coastal towns and lighthouses, and it truly is an amazing drive up the coast. We also have 11,000 inland lakes, so we have plenty of fresh water to play in, from kayaking, paddleboarding, or swimming, in the lakes and enjoying the sugar sand beaches. You can also try your hand at fishing on a charter boat, where the restaurant will cook your catch from the day. They handle everything, so it makes it easy. There are over 100 state parks with fabulous tree-lined trails for exploring. And if you have a passion for golf, Michigan has over 650 public golf courses. And Michigan is consistently named among the best golf destination in the country and has hosted in the past the Ryder Cup. One course in particular at Forest Dunes Golf Club has a unique reversible golf course called the Loop, which is truly an amazing experience. The long Michigan summer days allow golfers to play late into the evening and taking advantage of incredible sunset views over lakes and hardwoods.
Stacey, I want to ask you about this new itinerary that I think you guys have developed that focuses on the region's national parks.
Yes, so in response to the increased interest in road trips, outdoors, and motorhome travel, we created a Capital Region USA motorhome itinerary focused on the region's many national and state parks. The tour is included in CRUSA America's tour book. It's a 14-day itinerary with 2 days starting in Washington, D.C., just for a quick city break before you pick up your motorhome, and begin an 11-day tour of the parks in Virginia and Maryland. And it takes you from the mountains in western Maryland out to the Chesapeake Bay, down to First Landing State Park, where the first colonists landed, Assateague Island National Seashore, where wild horses run along the beach. And then it takes you back down into Virginia, looping into Western Virginia at Shenandoah National Park is where it culminates. And the park is home to Skyline Drive, which is a 105-mile-long scenic byway through the park, and also portions of the Appalachian National Scenic Trail.
Jennifer, I might turn to you here. Maine had some of the lowest incidences of COVID in the United States and one of the highest levels of vaccine uptake. So in as much as we can expect changes, what are those changes? And particularly for visitors, what can they expect?
Yes, Maine worked very hard to be a safe destination, including working with our businesses for safe practices for visitors within lodging and restaurants and et cetera. And we are relatively doing well at this time, to the point where we've been able to really lift most restrictions for visitors, domestic visitors. They can come without any requirement to test or quarantine. We follow the US CDC's guidelines in terms of international visitors. So if you're fully vaccinated and you come, we just ask that you do be tested after you've been here for a few days to confirm that you're not any virus, but otherwise you're free to enjoy. And like many places, Maine businesses really pivoted, that horrible word.
Sure.
And we and really stepped up and came up with solutions. And one that I think is one that will continue is the Maine Outdoor Dining Initiative. So there's actually a website, Maine Outdoor Dine, and there are ways that if you are still trying to, maintain some distance and just be a little more cautious, you can still enjoy restaurants. There's sidewalk dining. In the winter, they've built igloos. Of course, in the summer, lobster docks are a very safe place to be outdoors and eat. And you can find locations where you can do this safely on this website, Maine Outdoor Dine.
Chris, New England, again, is a pretty broad area. So what changes can we expect? How safe is New England? What's the experience of going to post-pandemic New England going to be like?
Well, you used a really good word, safe. In fact, if you Google the top states in the United States, what are the, highest vaccination rates, you're going to find all 6 New England states right there. I think they're jockeying for position, who gets, 2, 3, 4, but I think it's Vermont and Maine at the top of them, and the rest of us are close behind. That part Jennifer mentioned, been I think one of our highlights. The industry has been hard hit from the standpoint of now they're having a hard time, as the whole U.S. is a little bit, with some of the staffing. But that also gives folks maybe a little chance to relax. I hope that's one of the things that people will do a little bit here in post. And I'm not sure we're all there yet, but in coming out of this pandemic, give some help there. Remember, New England, like many of the states you're talking about, has its wilderness area. You've heard Jennifer talk about that as well, but that's one of the things that I think helps us as well. We're not densely populated. You have cities that, yes, have more, but again, New England's feature is its outdoor scenic beauty, recreation, all of that as well, and protocols, as many of us have mentioned. But I think you're going to see all the states are open now. They're releasing more and more changes to how they're dealing with that. The dining was one. Yesterday, I was at a women's professional basketball game in Connecticut in a major casino. Again, there are folks wearing masks, and you are encouraged to do that if you want to do that. If folks are not vaccinated, that's required. But there are no police there to say you have to do this or that. And I think that's, as we're coming out of this, we're seeing, at least in New England, a real and welcoming there. And it's nice to see that. And again, at the game yesterday, it was probably half full, but it was fully occupied if they wanted to be. So it was a great way to experience a professional basketball game.
Stacey Sheets, I mean, anytime I go to DC, I'm constantly reminded that it has some of the world's greatest collection of cultural institutions, museums, etc. Are they all open again?
Nearly all the museums have reopened. We have 17 Smithsonian museums in the National Zoo here. Right now, they all require free timed entry passes that can be acquired online or by phone 1 to 30 days in advance. Same-day passes are available for the National Museum of African American History and Culture and the National Museum of American History. In the past, you could just walk in, free admission, no ticket needed. But these are just some of the protocols in place as the museums have reopened.
Now, speaking of culture, Kelly, you can't think of Detroit without thinking of Motown. How can visitors enjoy that city's musical and cultural legacy?
Absolutely. The Motown spirit is alive, and visitors can experience Motown by visiting Hitsville, USA, which is the original home of Motown Records, and which is now a museum. It's, the unreal experience of walking into the same studio that Stevie Wonder, the Jackson 5, and Diana Ross recorded those incredible hits that we still love today is quite amazing. And while you're there at Motown, you can actually record your own record while visiting. But, Detroit is also home to a very vibrant art scene downtown. They're home to the Henry Ford Museum, which is an opportunity for people to explore a collection of authentic artifacts and stories of Americans' ingenuity and innovation. It takes about 2 days to visit the 3 attractions which make up the Henry Ford. But you can sit in the bus where Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat, explore the laboratory where Thomas Edison had his light bulb moment, or even where the Wright brothers taught us to reach for the sky. It's truly a unique experience and make up all those cultural benefits of visiting Detroit.
Now, Chris, music may be the food of love, but food is something that everybody loves and everybody needs when they're traveling. Now, I'm going to give Stacey, so like Chesapeake Bay might have a claim here, but we're talking about seafood, New England. I mean, you guys mentioned lobster, but let's say you're looking beyond just big lobsters. What are we talking about?
Well, again, New England clam chowder, and there's a friendly disagreement with that other place you used to live for over a decade. Anything with tomato sauce is not a real chowder. That doesn't work that way. This is the best time of year. I mean, again, summer is tremendous because locavores love it. You know, locavores being the folks that want to get that fresh, local taste. And that's everything from Maine blueberries, which Jennifer's coming right into the high season there. I can't wait for that. But also, again, the seacoast has its seafood. And, you know, Cape Cod, as a child, we would go to Cape Cod and dig for steamers. That was, you know, you'd pick up, those are clams that then you would then steam. So it's a great way to experience that. Farmers markets are going on. The culinary, you know, literally blossoms in the summertime, and farmers markets in almost every town you can visit here throughout all the states. You're going to find that local connection. And let's not forget, you know, craft beer, craft cocktails. That's another thing that's really becoming very popular here. You may be going to your local restaurant, and the next thing you know, the bartender's there doing something that, wow, what's that with lavender in it now? So again, it's a great time of year to experience some of these New England feelings and flavors that you can really pinpoint. Now, you don't forget in the springtime, you probably don't forget that one of the big things we have here is this thing that maple trees produce, and that's boiled down into syrup and sugar and all the rest. And boy, being out of the New England area for 10 years, I certainly missed my maple syrup. I'm shipping it all south now to my friends saying, yeah, have a little taste of New England right there, folks.
Jennifer, earlier on, you're talking about this great wilderness that Maine has to offer. How many hours away from Boston, first of all, are we before we can reach this wilderness?
So in 2 hours, you can be in Portland.
Okay.
And then from Portland, you know, half hour in different directions. Bradbury Mountain State Park is 20 minutes away. Sebago Lake is 20 minutes away. In an hour, you can be in Newry at Sunday River Ski Resort. So it's accessible. Obviously, the farther north you go, the wilder it gets.
Now, I think that's something that it's the point I want to get across. I mean, for all of you, I mean, DC obviously has a direct airport. You can fly into New York and you can be in New England in a matter of less an hour. You can be in Connecticut in under an hour if you're lucky enough. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that with direct route accessibility from Ireland to all of your destinations, and you can fly to Chicago as I've done, and then you can skip and a jump and you're in Michigan in almost no time at all. So all of this wonderful wilderness, all of this extraordinary landscapes, they're all accessible to Irish visitors literally within a couple of hours of landing from Dublin. And, you know, perhaps I'll let you, Jennifer, expand on that.
Well, it's true. And many people who come to Maine prefer to come by car because that allows them to do more of those sort of hub and spoke explorations. But there's also the option of taking the train. Amtrak from Boston, the Downeaster, will take you up the coast through coastal beach towns to Portland and beyond up to the mid-coast region. So there's that kind of opportunity as well. It is accessible for sure.
And Kelly, perhaps with Michigan being geographically the furthest away from Ireland, all the other destinations are on the East Coast. The direct point of access, obviously there are direct flights with Aer Lingus into Chicago. But if you wanted then to get into Michigan, I know that there's multiple options as well, are there not?
Yeah, and there's also a direct flight if you're interested in flying out of London right into Detroit. Yeah. So that would give you the opportunity to fly into Detroit, get your rental car, you know, experience Detroit for a few days, and then head north into some other experiences as well.
Guys, I think we've run out of time. So I want to thank you all for taking part in this travel trade webinar. My thanks to Visit USA for setting us up. And then, of course, my thanks to my guests, Stacey Sheets, who's the marketing director for Capital Region USA, Chris Jennings, who's the executive director for Discover New England, Jennifer Geiger, who is the PR and communications manager for Visit Maine, and Kelly Walgamot, who is the director of travel marketing for Pure Michigan. All I can say from us here on the other side of the Atlantic is we absolutely hope to see you very, very soon. So thank you very much.